son.
Hey guys, Thetcglover here, how you doing today? So I was just thinking about a theory, right? And of course I come up with a lot of these, and I think as a subscriber you're probably quite used to the fact that I come up with a bunch of random terms and ways to describe something that probably exists already. But I feel like it's something that I've analysed over my 6 or so years of playing this game. Konami does something which I like to call either going to be leveling the floor or raising the ceiling. Now, if you look at America, right, they do this thing in the government where they raise the debt ceiling, and if you don't know what that is, that means that they set themselves a debt limit, and then they go, we're not going to go past this debt limit, and then we're going to try and cut this debt down by actually getting the taxes and paying for stuff. What they end up doing is they end up raising the debt ceiling because they realize they need more money and they don't have it. So they're in desperate need of money, maybe for military, maybe for welfare. And then they end up raising the ceiling and therefore making their debt worse, but they keep breaking their promise and then making it higher, so that people in the country are suffering. The economy gets worse, the strength of the dollar goes down, so it affects everyone. So raising the debt ceiling is generally a bad idea, and I feel like in Yu-Gi-Oh! That is the same thing. By that I mean the power level of cards. The difference between the most powerful cards in the game, which is generally going to be something like archetypes, and the weakest cards in the game, and I'm not talking about the cards from Blue Eyes White Dragon set, I'm talking about the ones that have come out recently in sets where the power level of the weakest cards are incredibly weak as opposed to the power level of the strongest cards in the set. So Konami have obviously created a kind of thing where they release cards with the intention of some cards being completely unplayable and some cards being very strong. So they can actually release 100 cards every 3 months, but they can actually control the player base to a point where they can actually reduce them to about 20 cards of that set at the most. So you're not going to see more than 20 cards of a set being played, and then the other 80 are going to be thrown away, or it's not going to be used, or they're going to be played in the cube draft or something like that. Konami have either not leveled the floor or they have just raised the ceiling, and it seems to me like America, they've just raised the ceiling, and that means that every 3 months or so they're releasing a new set and they are increasing the power level of cards. So older cards which were decent are now no longer good anymore. So there is set rotation in the game, if you want to call it that. Obviously Magic the Gathering set rotation is where they completely say, okay, you can't play these cards anymore, you're going to have to buy some new ones and you're going to have to play these. So they're exactly the same strength, and some of them do exactly the same thing. But they just want you to keep moving ahead so that you don't feel stagnant and they don't, it's not stale. It seems douchey to completely eliminate cards from a game and then you say, okay, all these cards you've got now, you can't play them anymore, right? That seems really douchey, but to say that you can still play them but just not in advanced, that's okay, because people still want to play with their old cards, and some of them do exactly the same thing as I just said. But Konami actually says you can play with any cards you want, but ideally you're going to want to play the best cards that you can get. So ideally you're going to play an archetype, which means that you're going to end up playing all the cards from the newest set, so they can keep releasing new archetypes and keep forcing you to buy a new set and play a new deck every single 3 months, so that you can't just stay with one deck and ride it out and get money, payback for your investment of money, which is like $300, $400 for a decent deck. I mean, I think Burning Abyss was going for like $400 or $500 at one point. I'm not sure how much it's going for now because I don't know about the new set stuff. So with that, Konami raises the ceiling like every 3 months, and so therefore they don't lower they don't level the lower end, which means that what they could do now, which is what if you play something like Hearthstone, you can see that there's not many cards in the game, but there is actually they've announced and they've stated how they would rather lower the floor rather than raise the ceiling. They don't want to keep releasing new powerful cards and then forcing people to play new cards. They would actually rather just make the worst cards better, right? And of course, if it's a digital online card game, you can actually nerf and buff cards so that they actually change what they do. So Konami tries to take banned cards and change them so they're not bannable anymore. So in OCG we've actually got banned cards coming back with new effects. So that's actually a good start. So you're actually lowering the ceiling a little bit by actually releasing new cards that are actually decent. But that being said, raising the ceiling means that lowering the floor happens, okay? The cards don't get worse, they don't get better, but what it does mean is that they don't get they, compared to the best cards in the game, they're just getting worse. So what we're talking about here is that the level of the worst cards need to be somewhat kept at a good level so that the worst cards in the game are actually decent. So whenever Konami releases a new set, what we would like to see is that all the commons, all the cards that are not high rarity stuff, that have no synergy with any archetype, that are not archetype specific cards, or just random cards that they're putting in, we would like to see those cards to be good. Not broken good, not archetype good. You can still have better cards than others. It's okay to have good cards and bad cards in a game. But to actually have cards that you pull from a pack and then actually look at them and go, actually I want to play this card because it looks like a good card. It destroys something, I don't know, it bounces something, it does something, it's not broken, maybe it's too slow, maybe it's got an inherent problem, maybe it's too weak, it's not enough attack points, maybe you need to set it first to get an effect off, maybe it's a flip effect, you know? But if the flip effect lets you gain 3,000 life points and destroy a card on the field, then having a flip effect like that is actually really good. So if Konami actually just looked at what they release and actually go, actually no one's going to play these cards, what's the point of even releasing them, then why not just make the cards that you release slightly better while keeping the best cards in the game at a level, so that eventually you create a 50 cards, 100 card set where 50 or 60 of the cards are actually balanced, you know, actually decent strong cards that people actually want to play. You know, and if you do that, you will see longevity in your game a lot more than anything else, because you want people to look at a pack that they've just pulled. They don't pull a holo, because most of the time you're not going to pull a holo. We'll sell like 8 holos out of 24 packs in a box. So you're most likely not going to see one. You're going to see a holo one every 3 packs. So every time you don't pull a holo, you don't want to just open it up and look at these crap cards and then throw them away. It's such a waste of money. And Konami obviously assumes that people just do that and then throw it away and don't think about it. But when I'm opening packs and I don't get a holo, I'm just looking at the cards going, I would never play these cards. Why are they so bad? You know, the floor needs to be leveled. You need to increase the power of these normal, decent cards so that they're actually good, you know? So that people can actually play this game and play casually or play competitively and actually get a whole bunch of new synergy with different cards that you would never have done before, but instantly just assuming that if it's not part of an archetype, it's crap, then it's not a very sustainable way to keep a card game going. And that's how it feels like. I mean, every deck that's out now, Cleave, Burning Abyss, Shadows, they're all archetypes. There is no way that something like Plant Synchro can survive anymore, because these cards are just not strong enough anymore. You know, and it's a shame because, you know, you could release some new plant support that would actually be really good for Plant Synchro rather than just plants. And then Plant Synchro is not an archetype, it's just a bunch of really nice cards that go well together. It's decks like that is completely innovated by the player base, and that sort of thing needs to be encouraged by Konami, rather than just force feeding you these archetypes that actually just tell you what to do and you don't have to think about it. Cleave requires no thought process whatsoever, so why would you want to play anything else if it just tells you what to do and you instantly win because you just follow the instructions, you know? So by raising the ceiling that way, by making cards more difficult to understand, but once you've got your head around them, they're actually incredibly easy to play, because the cards like just basically tell you how to win straight up, like Dragon Builders and stuff. So raising the ceiling is just not good. It just doesn't benefit the game enough, and it makes everything worse. If you keep doing it, it's like stabbing a dead horse and just keep adding knives to it. It's like you're eventually gonna create something that isn't a horse anymore. People won't be able to recognize it's a dead horse. They just go, it's a fucking mess. You know, you can't just keep doing it. So stop adding things to it. Put it away and try and do something else with it, so that you're not actually fucking up any worse. So that's how I feel about it, and I feel like it was a rant, but at the same time, I feel like my points are pretty relevant, and I hope that you guys understand what I'm talking about. If you don't understand what I'm saying, then I would like you to go into the comments down below and just talk about how you feel about this sort of thing, if you feel like I need to clarify myself a bit better. But all I'm trying to say is that the worst cards that are coming out in recent sets need to be improved, so that we can actually see that Konami is taking into account everyone who plays this game, so that people can just pick up a pack, not pull a holo, and still get a bunch of decent cards that they still want to use in their decks. You know, even if it's archetype decks, you still have something you can use, you know? There's a lot of cards that just come out that just aren't good enough, and it's disgusting how Konami just doesn't take note of other trading card games that exist in the world and then go, actually, their business model is actually a lot better than ours, and it's much more sustainable, and a lot more people are having fun. You know, Konami doesn't have, Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't have tens of millions of players, so why would you jeopardize the small player base you have by making things worse? And maybe it's because of these silly things that Konami does to their game that actually makes the game stop growing. So ultimately, the things that they do might just be what is going to kill the game off. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I hope to see you guys in a couple of days. So thanks for watching, and until next time, the Thetcglover is out.